This is the Investor Connect podcast program. I'm Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of this show in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, family offices, private equity, and many other investors for early stage and growth companies. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today we're here with Anupama Pansare, founder of Volyx Consulting. Anu is an accomplished business leader and a venture investor and serves on the advisory board of the Indiana University Angel Network. She is a judge for the Rise Business Plan competition, past chair of the Houston Angel Network Screening Committee, and a speaker at conferences including the Angel Capital Association. Anu, thank you for joining us.
Hal, thank you so much for having me over. Appreciate it.
Great. And so what was your background before investing in early stage companies?
So I started out on the tech side of things. I'm a computer engineer by training, and I went to IU, got my master's, and I date myself here, but that was a time when web technologies were just kind of developing and bursting. So I built a Zoom-like, whiteboard, and that got me into Schlumberger. And so my early career was in tech, in energy and consulting. And kind of out of these, I launched off Volyx, which was initially focused on tech consulting. And then we pivoted and focused more on digital transformation using a lot of the startup technologies. So my passion has always been with startups. I have the startup DNA. So even when I worked with the Schlumberger, Chevrons of the world, I have always been the entrepreneur or kind of disrupting their status quo and coming up with new processes. With Schlumberger, we leapfrogged from the Linux mainframe into the web and so on. So throughout my career, that has been my goal. And as I started working with startups, one thing led to the other. I started becoming an angel investor, and I got involved for some time also with CTAN out in Austin, and then I switched over to Han, and now I'm actively involved with the IU network as well as several my own family office and several family offices and venture firms.
Great. And so what excites you right now?
What excites me right now? So my focus right now is early stage companies. I think this is one of the great, times to be, and Houston too. We see a lot of early stage, high quality companies. So these are companies in the pre-seed, seed through pre-series A that I like to look at. And my areas of focus tend to be around digital, so SaaS, B2B, in the energy transition space, sustainability, and some fintech and blockchain. So those are the areas that I like to look at.
Great. Well, you see a lot of startups and you worked with a lot of investors. What's your advice for people investing in startups? What do you tell them to do before they write that first check?
Great question. So, especially when you are in the early stage and, like I'm looking at a lot of pre-seed companies and early stage, I think it helps to do a lot of due diligence. Due diligence is really key, and it's a team sport. So getting connected with your ecosystem and finding other investors and also comparing notes, finding out, who are the competitors, what they look like. That's always a good thing. So I always reach out to other investors, and I'd always be happy to have other people reach out, because I find being diligent upfront helps a lot, as well as you want to see a cultural fit between you and the founder, because this is, a long-term relationship. When you're getting an early stage, you're going to be involved with this company for a couple of years down the road till there's a liquidity or exit event. And so you want to be able to help this founder, right? One of the reasons, at least for me, getting involved with early stage companies is being able to help that founder, being able to make those connections. So you want to be able to, have this founder as somebody that you and them can kind of get along.
Great. And on the other side of that table, what's your advice for people running startups? What do you tell them to do before they go out to raise funding?
So, founders that are out in the market, I think now is one of the best times to be a startup founder, one of the best times to fundraise. Last year, we saw a whole bunch of SPACs and a whole bunch of financial vehicles becoming available. So I think as a startup founder, carpe diem, seize the opportunity. But I also think that when you reach out for funding, it's very important to find the fit. Try to understand what that investor or angel or VC fund you're reaching out to, what their thesis is, and how you fit in within that thesis. Do a little bit of due diligence, as a founder, and understand, what their portfolio looks like. How do they engage? And is that a model? And is that, set of processes that will work for you? Because you're going to have to spend a lot of time with your investors.
Well, great. Well, let's talk about the state of investing, in particular angel investing, as you've been a member of many angel groups and have done a lot of work with the early stage companies. How do you
Yes.
see angel investing evolving? Where do you see it going?
Really good question. So there's several factors of change or agents of change that are coming in. So one of the changes I see is that we're having earlier angels would be the first money in. Now we're seeing a lot of industry players come in. So there's corporate VCs, CVCs trying to also get into this market. You're also seeing some of the larger players, some of the larger venture funds also looking at very early stage companies. So there's, from that perspective, the angels, it's getting to be a competitive market there. And then the other change, which I see as really positive, is that, we are becoming a much more diverse and BIPOC, women, minority-friendly investment community, where a few years back it was really difficult to make progress for a diverse founder. Today, there are a lot of funds that are actually even focused on helping such founders. So these are, some of the high-level changes I see.
Well, great. And what do you think is the biggest change we'll see in the coming, say, 10 years with angel investing?
I think with the angel investing over the next 10 years, we will see the base expand quite a bit. So really, I think today, with there are angel networks like the IU Angel Network, Han, CTAN, so on, and, even as we all come under the ACA umbrella. But there's a whole bunch of people who are accredited or who are interested in investing that could come under the umbrellas of these angel networks. And I think these folks will start coming under the, various angel networks, especially the accredited. I feel that would be one direction that the industry goes.
Great. Well, let's talk about your investment thesis. You mentioned several areas, blockchain and others a moment ago, but can you tell us a little bit more about what exactly are you looking to invest in and what is your thesis for that to be successful?
Great question. So one of the things I'm looking for in companies is that they are one early stage. I don't typically, and none of the funds and family offices we work for go typically beyond a Series A. But today, a Series A versus a seed round, they have different definitions, especially if you come from one of the coasts. If you come from California, it might very well be a Series A round for us, what you're calling, a seed or a bridge round. But so that is one kind of check. And then the other is my background's a lot of digital, right? So I focus on companies where I can add value through helping them, optimize with their digital workflows, help them go to market, get them those connections. So I'm looking at early stage companies where I can help them get to the next stage gate. And with that in mind, in the digital space, I like to work with companies that are in the B2B SaaS space. That's where, a lot of the partners with Volyx that we worked with, a lot of experience hands-on in helping them grow and market their services. So that's one area. And then the other is I've worked in the energy industry, the last 20 plus years. And this is an industry that's in flux today. Energy transition, it's not a is it going to happen? It's a when is it going to happen, right? So the sustainable, looking at hydrogen, as a fuel, both as fuel cells, EV, carbon capture, those are the areas that interest me, and companies that are being disruptors, right? So we've worked quite a bit with companies that are doing AI analytics platforms. We're also looking at companies that are doing, a step change. So they've got new materials or they've got new processes. So those are some of the companies that definitely interest us. And in the fintech space, I think what interests me is the DeFi, right? Where they're looking at how can we decentralize some of the financial, processes and workflows. And the other piece is blockchain. I don't look at blockchain necessarily as just finance, but I see blockchain as an enabler across multiple industries, right? Just because of the framework that it provides.
Great. So you see a lot of startups out there. What do you think is the biggest challenge startups face in launching their business these days?
I think one of the biggest challenges, of course, getting from that 0 to 1, that is always the biggest challenge for most startups. But assuming you've got past that, then it's also the amount of change. Change is a constant. For example, in the alternate energy space, right? Our standards are evolving continuously. We don't have any standard set. For example, let's say you're looking at long distance transportation, right? Long haul transportation. transportation, trucks, that sort of thing. Who's going to win out, right? Is it the EVs or is it the hydrogen? You don't know that. So which way do you go? So that's sort of, there's a lot of that uncertainty. I mean, startup business has always been uncertain, but today it's really magnified. And so how do you, as a startup, quickly pivot or take advantage of what's happening in the ecosystem? That is a big challenge.
Great. And then on the investor side, what do you think is the biggest challenge investors face in working with startups these days?
I think as investors, you're faced with a lot of deal flow these days, right? It's not that, do I have deal flow? It is, how do I filter noise from signal? And that was one of the things I'm really passionate about. And I'm actually thinking of launching a podcast series where, we'll talk with different players in the space and try to help figure out that noise from signal, as well as maybe, do a syndicate where people can join in and be part of this community. Because I think it takes a village, not only to for a startup, but also a village to invest when, for some of the early stage investments, because there's a lot of due diligence that you've got to do to filter out that noise and, have that collective viewpoint, right? Looking at different viewpoints helps a lot. I think collective intelligence or the swarm intelligence is a big thing to have.
Great. Well, you see a lot of different applications and sectors out there. If you had to pick one or two that are good opportunities for investors to pursue today, what would you put at the top of the list?
I definitely say that electric vehicles and, the EV technology is coming. So that I would, put my money there. Another would be, the hydrogen fuel, blockchain. Those are, 3 areas that I would say those technologies are set to disrupt.
Great. Well, in the last few minutes that we have here, what else should we cover that we haven't?
The next step, right? I'm currently also working with G-Beta as their Houston director. So looking at early stage companies, I'm looking to, expand the Houston market, as well as help them get more deep tech, which is my background. And the other piece that I'm also working on, hopefully April, is launch a podcast where, we talk about these early stage investments, talk with VCs, investors, the different stakeholders, startups, and as well as industry experts so that we kind of share with our listeners what are ways to kind of filter noise out and get true signal and start investing. And in that same frame, I'm also looking to, launch a syndicate where we can have birds of a feather collect and invest in some of these companies. But I think one of the big things in Texas, and especially, in Houston, Austin, is that we have actually a wide base of professionals who are very much accredited investors, but we've got to enable them. We've got to provide them that platform to get involved. And I think that'll go a long way to supporting the startup ecosystem and for Texas to actually become the third coast, right? We have the 2 coasts kind of dominating all the VC funding, and we are a poor third, and I think we can flip that.
Well, great. Well, I'm looking forward to listening to your podcast. Do you have a potential name for it yet?
I don't yet. Maybe it's just a new venture, right? Or something like that. But I will keep you posted. It's going to be along those lines.
Well, great. So how best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
I think you guys have my LinkedIn and my email. Either way works. I'm always responsive to either of those.
Great. We'll put those in the show notes. I want to thank you for joining us today and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Hal. And take care.
You too.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Paul T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.